Annika had stopped hopping for visitors 6 months ago, so when the scratching came, soft, desperate, rhythmic, she knew it wasn't hope her door, it was trouble. Annika Allen wrapped her arms tighter around herself, the cold seeping through every crack in the abandoned shepherd's cabin. 6 months since the council's verdict. 6 months since Lord Castellan Drake himself had stripped the royal healer's crest from her robes and pronounced her guilty of spreading dangerous lies that threatened kingdom stability. The frozen spine mountains were meant to be her tomb. No Omega survived winter this far north. No one was supposed to. The scratching came again, weaker now, accompanied by a sound that made Annika's blood freeze. A whimper, distinctly canine but massive, carrying the resonance of something far larger and far more dangerous than any ordinary wolf. She pressed her ear against the rough wooden door, her healer's instincts warring with survival sense. Nothing good came calling in blizzards. Nothing innocent sought refuge at the edge of the world where exiles went to die. When she finally cracked the door open, Annika's breath caught. A shadow wolf collapsed across her threshold. Not just any shadow wolf, but one bearing the silver and moonstone collar of royal bloodline. Blood stained the snow beneath the massive body, steaming in the frigid air as the blizzard howled around them. But it was the swollen belly that made Annika's hands move before her mind could protest. This creature was heavily pregnant. "They sent you to die too," Annika whispered, seeing her own fate reflected in those intelligent amber eyes. The wolf raised her head with tremendous effort, and in those eyes, Annika saw the same desperate plea she had once made to the council, the same words that had fallen on deaf ears. Save them. Whatever it costs, save them. For a heartbeat, Annika stood frozen. 6 months of isolation had taught her survival meant keeping your head down, your door locked, your heart hardened. She was Omega, worth less than the firewood she burned to stay alive. Helping could bring nothing but death. But she remembered standing before the council, begging them to investigate the murdered Omega mothers, remembered the cold satisfaction in Drake's eyes as he called her a liar. She had failed those mothers. She would not fail this one. "I never was good at doing what they wanted," Annika muttered, grabbing the wolf's collar. "Come on then, Trouble. Let's be stupid together." "Hello, lovely. Quick question. If saving 3 prophetic lives meant facing an army of assassins, would you open your door?" "Thank you so much for being here. It truly means the world to me. I'm on this journey to 1,000 subscribers for Alpha's romance stories, and if Annika's story is already pulling at your heart, please hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. It helps more than you know. Thank you. Now let's get back to what happens when the exiled Omega everyone called worthless becomes the healer who changed a kingdom. The door slammed shut against the blizzard's rage. Inside, by the meager light of her dying fire, Annika's healer training took over. Chapter 1. The shadow wolf was too massive to lift, so Annika dragged her across the rough wooden floor, leaving a trail of blood and melted snow. Her muscles screamed in protest, but she didn't stop until the creature lay beside the dying fire. As Annika's hands moved over the wolf's body, checking for injuries, her mind dragged her backward 6 months to another desperate moment when she had tried to save lives and failed. She had stood before the council in her finest healer's robes, presenting her findings with trembling hands. 3 Omega mothers dead within 2 months across 4 territories. All had given birth to healthy pups with unusual abilities. All had died within days of delivery with identical symptoms. "The pattern is undeniable," she had insisted, laying out her meticulously documented evidence. Fever, seizures, respiratory failure. The symptoms matched silver-laced nightshade poisoning. Lord Castellan Drake had leaned forward in his seat, his expression one of patient condescension. And you believe someone is deliberately poisoning Omega mothers based on what exactly? Your feelings? Based on the evidence, my lord, the toxin traces I found in an Omega healer questioning her betas. Drake's voice had cut through her words like a blade through silk. How presumptuous, how dangerously presumptuous. The other council members had exchanged knowing looks. She had seen her fate in their eyes before Drake even pronounced it, spreading dangerous lies that threatened kingdom stability. Exile. They had torn the royal healer's crest from her robes in front of the entire court. The sound of ripping fabric still echoed in her nightmares. Annika shook herself back to the present, her hands now examining the shadow wolf's wounds. Deep gashes across the flanks, deliberately placed to cause maximum bleeding. But it was the smell that made her freeze. Sweet, cloying, like rotted flowers mixed with metal. No. Her hands trembled as she leaned closer, confirming what her senses already knew. Nightshade silver. Only the Royal Council has access to this. This wasn't a random attack. This was assassination sanctioned from the highest levels of power. The wolf's amber eyes fixed on her face, watching her realization unfold. Annika's fingers found the silver collar around the wolf's neck, ornate and bearing an intricate seal. As her skin made contact with the metal, the world exploded into vision. A war room, Commander Henrik Shing standing before Drake. The shadow wolf Destiny carries the last of the prophetic bloodline. If those pups are born during the convergence, then we eliminate the problem before it becomes one. Drake's voice cold and certain. Make it look like a hunting accident. Nightshade silver to ensure she doesn't heal. Drive her north into the mountains. Let winter finish what we start. The vision shattered. Annika gasped, pulling her hand away from the collar. The wolf, Destiny, watched her with those two intelligent eyes. They wanted us both to disappear, Annika whispered, understanding flooding through her. They almost succeeded. Destiny's body suddenly tensed, a low whine emerging from her throat. Annika's healer instincts kicked in immediately. She placed her hands on the swollen belly and felt the unmistakable tightening of contractions. Oh no, you're in labor. Annika's eyes met Destiny's. You've been running for days, haven't you? Trying to reach someone who could help? Trying to reach the one person in this kingdom too stubborn to turn away someone marked for death. Destiny huffed, almost indignant. Annika's bitter laugh echoed through the cabin. Smart wolf. Terrible judgment, but smart. She stood, her mind already cataloging what needed to be done. Herbs from the rafters, boiled water, clean cloth, barricade the door, set traps for anyone who might follow. Right, because normal wolves definitely have royal silver poisoning and prophecy bobbies, Annika muttered, gathering supplies. Nothing suspicious about that. As she worked, preparing for the impossible task ahead, she found herself talking to the massive creature, watching her every move. Annika, why are you talking to a wolf? Because, Annika, you've been alone for 6 months and might be slightly insane. She paused, meeting Destiny's gaze. But here's the thing. I couldn't save those mothers. I tried and I failed, and they exiled me for it. Her voice hardened with determination. But I can save you. I will save you. Outside, the blizzard howled. Inside, 2 outcasts marked for death prepared to fight for 3 lives that could change everything.
Chapter 2. Destiny's body convulsed with another contraction, stronger this time. Annika's hands pressed against the swollen belly, feeling the pups shifting inside, and the world tilted. The vision slammed into her consciousness like a tidal wave. She stood in a forest bathed in silver moonlight, but the trees were ancient, older than any she had seen. A massive shadow wolf knelt before a figure of pure luminescence, the moon goddess herself, radiant and terrible in her beauty. "Your daughter shall be the kingdom's conscience," the goddess proclaimed, her voice echoing across centuries. "Born under winter's crown, when betrayal's shadow falls deepest, they shall carry eyes of truth, seeing through all deception, breaking all false words. Protect them, faithful one, for the powerful will fear truth more than they fear death itself." The vision shifted, accelerating through time like pages torn from a book. Drake, younger but with the same cold eyes, standing over a poisoned well. Shadow wolves hunted through forests, their bodies left to rot. Omega healers dragged from their homes, accused of sedition, exiled or worse. 30 years of systematic elimination, all to prevent one prophecy from coming true. Image after image crashed through Annika's mind. Mothers she had tried to save, their faces now clear in memory. Each one killed because they had discovered traces of Drake's poisoning. Each one murdered because their gifts threatened to expose 3 decades of mass murder disguised as natural causes. "You've been doing this for 30 years!" Annika gasped as the vision released her, tears streaming down her face. "All those deaths, all those exiles, all to hide mass murder?" And then, cutting through the horror like a blade of pure silver, a voice entered her mind, not her own thoughts, but something other, something ancient and desperate and utterly exhausted. "Help my children live, that is all I ask." Annika's eyes snapped to Destiny's face. The shadow wolf watched her with those amber eyes, now filled with desperate hope. "You can speak," Annika whispered. "This whole time you could speak." "Not with words your kind would hear, but you are different, healer. You touched the collar, you saw, you understand." Another contraction racked Destiny's body. Through their newfound connection, Annika felt the pain as if it were her own, felt the 3 small lives fighting to enter a world that wanted them dead before they drew first breath. "The convergence," Annika said, understanding crystallizing. "That's why tonight, that's why you ran so far, risked so much. They have to be born during the celestial convergence or they'll just be normal pups." "The window is 3 hours. Destiny's mental voice grew strained. "I am the last fertile female of the true bloodline. If my daughters die, the prophecy dies, truth dies, and Drake's reign of poison continues unchallenged for another generation." Annika moved to the window, pulling back the rough cloth covering. The storm still raged, but through breaks in the clouds she could see it. The moon, normally silver-white, was beginning to shift. Red-gold light bled across its surface like blood mixing with honey. The convergence had begun. "I couldn't save the others," Annika said, her voice breaking. "The mothers Drake poisoned. I tried to warn them, tried to stop it, and I failed. They died because I wasn't strong enough, wasn't credible enough, wasn't—" "You were not meant to save them." Destiny's voice held an edge of something ancient, something knowing. "You were meant to be here, now, for this. They sent you to this mountain to die, and in doing so, they delivered you exactly where prophecy needed you to be." Annika turned back to face the massive shadow wolf, tears still streaming down her face. "If they find us, they are already coming. I can feel them in the storm. Commander Henrik will not let me reach the convergence alive. Then we fight." Annika's hands clenched into fists. "I'll die before I let anyone take them. I swear it." "You may have to." "Good thing I'm terrible at doing what I'm supposed to do." Annika grabbed her gathering basket, already mentally cataloging which herbs could be weaponized, which traps could be set. "How long do we have?" "Perhaps an hour before the first patrol reaches us. 3 hours until the convergence ends." In the distance, barely audible over the howling wind, came the sound of horses struggling through deep snow. Annika met Destiny's eyes one final time before the battle began. Then let's make sure these three little prophets get their chance to wreck Drake's entire world.
Chapter 3. Annika had just finished setting the last thornvine snare across the doorway when Destiny's body convulsed with a contraction that made the psychic connection between them flare white-hot with pain. Now the first comes now. Not yet, Annika hissed, hands already moving to check dilation. We need more time to... The door exploded inward. 6 soldiers crashed through, snow and splinters flying. The lead man's boot caught in the thornvine snare, and Annika didn't hesitate. She hurled the clay pot of wolfsbane powder directly into his face. His scream was immediate and gratifying. "I'm a healer," Annika snarled, driving her fingers into the pressure point beneath his jaw with surgical precision. "I know exactly where to cut." He dropped like a stone. 2 more soldiers charged. Annika grabbed the boiling pot from the fire and swung it in a wide arc. Scalding water mixed with medicinal herbs hit them both. While they reeled, she kicked the nearest one's knee at the exact angle to shatter the joint. But the 4th soldier was already past her defenses, sword raised toward Destiny's exposed belly. Annika threw herself between them, catching his blade on the iron poker from the fireplace. The impact jarred her bones, but she held. "Come on, little one, come on!" she gasped, because Destiny's body was pushing, and Annika could feel through their bond that the first pup was crowning, and she was fighting off a trained soldier with one hand while trying to deliver a prophetic pup with the other. "I've had better days," she grunted, using the soldier's forward momentum against him to send him stumbling toward the window. He crashed through the shutters into the blizzard beyond. Annika spun back to Destiny, dropping to her knees just as the first pup slid into her waiting hands. Tiny, gray-furred, perfectly formed, and utterly, devastatingly silent. "No, no, please, not after everything!" Annika's hands trembled as she cleared the pup's airways, rubbed its chest, tried everything her healer's training had taught her, but the little body remained limp, the eyes closed, no breath moving the tiny ribcage. Stillborn. The remaining soldiers were regrouping, and Annika had a dead pup in her hands, and Destiny's mental anguish was a knife through both their hearts. And the cabin roof exploded with light. Not natural moonlight, but something other. Red gold radiance poured through the suddenly transparent ceiling like liquid fire, like divine attention given physical form. The convergence beam struck the pup in Annika's hands with the force of lightning. The tiny body convulsed, eyes opened, irises no longer the amber of shadow wolves, but pure molten gold with pupils like stars. The pup's mouth opened, and the cry that emerged was not the mewing of a newborn, but something vast and terrible and beautiful. The psychic shockwave hit like a physical blow. The soldiers dropped to their knees, hands clutching their heads. Through eyes that suddenly saw too much, they witnessed their own crimes, the innocent they had killed, the orders they had followed without question, the evil they had enabled. "I see them," one soldier whimpered. "Gods, I see them all. The faces, the blood. What have I done? What have I—" 2 soldiers broke, fleeing into the storm with the sounds of men whose minds could not bear the weight of truth. 4 remained, but they were shaken, trembling, weapons forgotten as they fought against visions only they could see. Annika stared at the pup in her hands, alive, aware, and glowing with prophetic power. "Hello, prophet," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Welcome to your very complicated life." "Less talking, more catching." Destiny's mental voice was strained but urgent. "Second one coming now." "Oh, good prophecy. That won't be complicated at all," Annika muttered, gently setting the first pup against Destiny's belly before turning her attention to the next arrival. The 4 remaining soldiers were recovering, raising their weapons with the grim determination of men who knew retreat meant execution. One stepped forward, sword aimed at the glowing pup.
Annika grabbed a roof beam weakened by the convergence light and pulled. It crashed down between them and the soldiers, buying precious seconds. Outside, more horses, more soldiers. Commander Henrik's reinforcements had arrived, and inside the cabin, the second pup was coming, whether they were ready or not. Wait, that moment when the pup opened its golden eyes, that's what hope looks like when it refuses to die. If this story is giving you chills, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Subscribe if you believe the broken can become powerful and the exiled can change kingdoms. Only gatekeepers and bullies would want you to miss what happens next. You're not one of them. Let's continue.
Chapter 4. The barricaded door shattered under Commander Henrik King's boot, splinters exploding inward like wooden shrapnel. 8 fresh soldiers poured through behind him, weapons drawn, faces grim with purpose. "Lord Drake sends his regards to the meddling Omega," Henrik announced, his voice carrying the casual certainty of a man who had never failed a mission. Annika didn't have time to respond. Destiny's body convulsed, and through their bond she felt it, the second pup coming fast. Henrik's sword swung for her head. Annika ducked, caught the second pup one-handed as it slid into the world, and parried Henrik's follow-up strike with the bloodied iron poker in her other hand. "Really having a day here," she gasped. The second pup's eyes opened, pure gold like its sibling. The psychic connection between the 2 newborns snapped into place like a circuit completing, and their combined presence made the air itself hum with power. But there was a third. Annika could feel it through Destiny's weakening body. Breech position, wrong angle, the most dangerous kind of birth, even under ideal conditions. And conditions were decidedly not ideal. Henrik's soldiers were advancing in formation now, professional and coordinated. Annika had seconds at most before they overwhelmed her position. She set the second pup beside its glowing sibling and plunged her hands back between Destiny's legs, feeling for the third pup's position. There, she could feel the tiny body positioned all wrong, stuck. A soldier's blade whistled past her ear. Annika manipulated the pup with desperate precision, ignoring the combat erupting around her, trusting Destiny's massive body to shield her while she worked. Turn carefully. There. Henrik's patience ran out. He charged past Annika's defenses, sword raised high, aimed directly at Destiny's exposed throat. The look in his eyes said he knew exactly what he was doing. Kill the mother, and the pups would follow. Simple, efficient, final. Annika moved without thinking. She threw herself between Henrik's descending blade and Destiny's vulnerable neck, arms spread wide, body becoming the only shield that mattered. No more innocents die for powerful men's ambition. The sword punched through her chest with a wet, terrible sound, pain white-hot and absolute. Annika felt the blade scrape against her spine, felt her lungs collapse, felt her life beginning to pour out through the wound. But in that same moment, the third pup slid free into the world. 3 voices, tiny, newborn, impossibly powerful, cried out in perfect harmony. The psychic shockwave didn't just hit the soldiers, it shattered them. Every crime, every victim, every moment of complicity, 30 years of Drake's conspiracy forced into their minds all at once, experienced from the perspective of those they had hurt. "I see them, gods! I see all of them!" one soldier screamed, clawing at his own face. "The girl in Westfall, the old man at Crossing, I can feel their pain. I can feel." He collapsed, weeping. All around the cabin, soldiers dropped to their knees or fled into the storm, their minds broken by truth they could not unsee. Henrik stood frozen, watching his entire squad crumble. For the first time since entering, uncertainty crossed his face. Destiny's body began to change. Bones cracked and reformed. Silver fur receded in places, revealing smooth skin.
She rose on 2 legs instead of 4, her form caught between wolf and woman, a half-form, ancient and terrible, that shadow wolves only took when protecting what they loved most. Henrik managed one word: impossible. Destiny's clawed hand closed around his throat. Her jaws, still wolf-like in her hybrid form, found his neck. The sound was brief and final. Henrik fell, blood pooling beneath him. With his last breath, he choked out a warning. Captain Braxton, 20 soldiers, 1 hour behind. Drake's final solution. Then nothing. Annika lay on the floor, the sword still through her chest, reaching with trembling fingers toward the 3 glowing pups. Keep them safe. The pups, still slick with birth, crawled across the blood-stained floor toward her, 3 sets of golden eyes fixed on her face with ancient understanding. Tiny paws pressed against her wound, golden light poured from their bodies into hers. Annika watched, consciousness fading, as the impossible happened. The sword forced itself backward out of her chest, blood flowing in reverse, tissue knitting together with sounds like whispers in a language older than words. Her collapsed lungs inflated, her heart, which had stopped, began beating again. Annika gasped awake, hands flying to her chest. The wound was gone, not healed, gone, as if it had never existed. She stared at the 3 tiny pups, now exhausted from their effort, curled together and already falling asleep. So the Bobbies have healing powers. Sure, why not? Totally normal. Destiny, still in her terrifying half-form and covered in Henrik's blood, gave Annika a look of pure exasperation. Annika met those amber eyes. Are shadow wolves always this scary? We are scary when we must be. Now rest. Braxton comes, and he brings Drake's final solution. Outside the convergence, moonlight was beginning to fade. Inside, 3 prophetic pups slept beside their mothers, 1 wolf, 1 omega, while soldiers' bodies cooled in the snow. The real battle was still an hour away.
Chapter 5. 200 miles south. In the royal throne room, Lycan King Oliver Padilla's head snapped up mid-sentence as if struck by invisible lightning. Destiny. The council members exchanged confused glances. Lord Drake leaned forward with practiced concern. Your Majesty, are you... The vision hit Oliver like a fist to the chest. Annika's face covered in blood. 3 impossibly small pups with eyes like molten gold. Destiny's mental voice, weak and desperate, forcing itself across impossible distance. My king, my children, my healer. Henrik comes. Drake winced. Oliver was moving before conscious thought caught up. Saddle Tempest, I ride north now. My king, you cannot abandon the council during... Drake's protest died as Oliver's hand closed around his collar. My war commander is dying. I go. The ride north was brutal. 12 elite guards struggling to keep pace as Oliver pushed Tempest through conditions that should have killed them all. Wind cut like knives, snow blinded, but Oliver followed the psychic thread connecting him to Destiny like a lifeline through the storm. She had raised him. When his father died and his mother fell ill, when the council circled like vultures, Destiny had been there, teaching him to fight, to lead, to trust his instincts. She was more mother to him than mentor, more family than any blood relation. And she was dying. The cabin appeared through the blizzard like a wound in the landscape. Smoke, shattered wood, bodies in the snow. Gods, one of the guards breathed. Oliver dismounted before Tempest fully stopped, crashing through what remained of the door. His eyes took in the scene in fragments. Dead soldiers, blood everywhere, a massive silver wolf in half form. And you, Oliver's voice caught. You're the healer, the Omega healer. You saved my mother. Annika looked up from where she knelt beside Destiny, exhaustion written into every line of her body. 3 tiny pups, impossibly radiantly golden-eyed, nursed at Destiny's belly.
And you exiled me 3 months later. Convenient timing. Oliver's world tilted. Understanding crashed through him like ice water. I was told you left, that you declined the royal position and departed to practice in the outer territories, Drake said. Drake lies. Annika's voice held the bitter weight of betrayal survived. Drake has been lying for 30 years. Oliver? Destiny's mental voice was weak but unmistakable in his mind. My boy, they tried to kill my line. This Omega saved us, saved your kingdom. Destiny, what did you... Oliver's eyes fell on the 3 pups again, really looked at them, at their golden eyes and the way the air shimmered around their tiny bodies. The babes did this. One of the pups detached from nursing and wobbled toward Oliver on unsteady legs. Before he could react, tiny paws touched his hands. The vision slammed into him with prophetic force. 30 years compressed into moments. Drake poisoning wells, ordering executions, manipulating council votes, eliminating anyone who threatened to expose his conspiracy. Oliver's own father wasting away over 2 years from carefully administered poison. And the Omega healers, dozens of them, exiled, murdered, silenced, all for discovering fragments of truth that Drake couldn't allow to spread. Gods, all of it. Tears streamed down Oliver's face as the full scope of betrayal revealed itself. They killed so many, and you tried to warn us. I wasn't credible. Annika's voice was steady despite the pain in her eyes. I was just an Omega who didn't know her place. Oliver dropped to his knees before her, royal dignity forgotten. Never again, I swear it, never again. He tried to scoop up the prophetic pup, managing to hold it upside down until Annika sighed. Support the head. The head? No, that's the tail. Right, yes, head. Oliver adjusted his grip carefully. The pup yawned, revealing tiny teeth, completely unconcerned with being manhandled by royalty. Behind him, one of his guards muttered, "We rode 200 miles to deliver puppies. I trained 10 years for this." Oliver pulled a cloth bundle from his saddlebag. "I brought supplies, food, medical." He paused, looking at the carrots he'd hastily grabbed. "Are shadow wolves vegetarian?" Destiny, still in half form and covered in dried blood, gave him a look of such withering disappointment that Oliver actually flinched. "That's a no." Then Annika laughed, despite everything, a sound like breaking glass, sharp and cleansing. "Your Majesty, your war commander, just birthed 3 prophetic pups, killed your traitorous commander, and saved the kingdom. I don't think carrots are the priority." Fair point. Oliver's face sobered, looking at the bodies outside. Henrik's dead? Very. Destiny's mental voice held grim satisfaction. Good. Oliver's hand moved to his sword. But he said something before he died, didn't he? About Braxton and 20 soldiers. Annika nodded. Drake's final solution. They're coming. Oliver looked at his 12 guards, then at the exhausted healer, the weakened war commander, and 3 newborn pups who could apparently break minds with truth. Then we prepare, and when Captain Braxton arrives, he's going to learn what happens when you threaten my family.
Chapter 6. The 3 pups crawled toward Oliver with purpose, their golden eyes fixed on his face. Before he could protest, 6 tiny paws pressed against his temples. The memories hit like an avalanche, 30 years of conspiracy compressed into minutes. Oliver watched through Drake's own memories as the Lord Castellan poisoned wells across 4 territories. Careful doses that would kill slowly enough to avoid suspicion. He saw Drake arrange accidents, a bridge collapse here, a hunting mishap there, eliminating anyone who questioned too closely. He witnessed his own council meetings through Drake's perspective, saw how every decision, every policy, every appointment had been carefully manipulated. The kingdom Oliver thought he ruled had been Drake's puppet show for 3 decades. "He's been controlling your kingdom since before you were born," Annika said quietly, watching Oliver's face pale.
You've never actually ruled. He has." Oliver's hands clenched into fists. "My father. Drake served my father faithfully for 20 years. Was father?" The pup's vision shifted, answering the unspoken question. Young Drake, barely 30, adding careful measures of nightshade to the king's wine, night after night, week after week. 2 years of slow, agonizing death that every physician diagnosed as natural decline. "I'm going to kill him," Oliver whispered, tears streaming down his face. "Slowly." "Get in line," Annika replied. Movement in Oliver's peripheral vision, 2 of his own guards drawing swords. Oliver moved on instinct, disarming the first with a twist of his wrist. But the second guard was faster, slipping past Oliver's defenses. His blade found Destiny's throat, pressing against the vulnerable fur. "Drake pays better than you ever did, boy king." The nearest pup screamed, not with voice, but with mind. The psychic wave hit the guard like a physical blow. His eyes went wide, seeing visions only he could witness. "No, no, make it stop! I see them! I see what I am!" The sword clattered to the floor as he collapsed, hands clutching his head. The merchant's daughter in Westport, the old woman who saw too much. I killed them, and I... He curled into a ball, weeping. The sound of thundering hooves cut through the moment. 30 mounted soldiers materialized from the blizzard, surrounding the cabin in practiced formation. Oliver felt relief flood through him. "Braxton! Thank the gods!" Drake's guards parted, his oldest friend's sword pointed directly at Oliver's heart. "I know. I sent them." The world stopped. "Brax!" Oliver's voice broke. "We've been brothers since we were 8. "And you never saw me." Braxton's face was carved from stone, emotionless. "Never truly saw what I could be. Drake did. Drake offered me what you never could. Respect, power, a kingdom where I matter." Annika stepped forward despite Destiny's warning growl. "You matter so much. You're murdering babies. That's your power?" Prophecy pups die. Shadow Wolf dies. Omega Trash dies. Oliver dies. Braxton's voice was flat, reciting a list. "I return to Drake with proof, and I become Lord Commander of the new regime." "You're my brother," Oliver whispered. "I'm your weapon. That's all I've ever been. Now I serve a master who knows my worth." The 30 soldiers tightened their circle, professional, coordinated, lethal. Oliver looked around, taking stock. 10 loyal guards, 1 exhausted Omega healer, 1 weakened Shadow Wolf in half form, 3 newborn pups who could barely crawl, against 30 of the kingdom's finest soldiers, led by the man Oliver had trusted with his life since childhood. "Well," Annika said into the terrible silence, "this day just keeps getting better." Oliver couldn't help the bitter laugh that escaped. "Is everyone I know evil?" "I'm not evil. I exiled you." Annika paused. "Point taken." The guard on the floor, still broken by the pup's vision, mumbled through his tears. "I need a different job. Farming. Maybe farming." Braxton raised his hand, and 30 swords lifted in unison. "Any last words, Your Majesty?" Oliver opened his mouth, but Annika spoke first. "We can't fight them." She looked at Oliver, then at the 3 glowing pups. "But maybe we don't have to." "What are you?" "Trust me," Annika interrupted, kneeling beside the pups. "And trust them." The 3 tiny prophets looked up at her with ancient understanding in their golden eyes. "Can you do it again?" Annika whispered. "All of them at once?" The eldest pup's mental voice was exhausted but determined. "We can try." Braxton's hand dropped. "Charge." 30 soldiers advanced as 3 newborn pups stood on shaking legs and opened their mouths to scream truth into the world.
Chapter 7. The 3 pups stood on trembling legs, their golden eyes fixed on the charging soldiers. Annika felt their exhaustion through the bond. They had already broken minds, healed mortal wounds, and been born only hours ago. Can they do what they did to Hendrik's soldiers to 30 at once? We can try. The eldest pup's mental voice was threadbare. But it might. Whatever it costs, we pay together. Golden light began to build in the pups' small bodies, growing brighter with each heartbeat. Annika threw the last of her wolfsbane powder in a wide arc, while Destiny, still in half form, positioned herself as a living wall of claws and fury. Oliver raised his sword, eyes locked on Braxton. Brothers in all but blood, Brax. It didn't have to be this way. It was always this way. You just refused to see. The soldiers charged. The pups screamed. Golden light exploded outward like a shockwave, piercing each soldier like arrows of pure truth. The psychic wave didn't just hit their minds, it dragged them into the perspective of every person they had ever harmed. A young soldier found himself suddenly experiencing the village he'd burned. He was the child trapped in flames, screaming for a mother who couldn't reach him. He was the mother feeling her baby die in her arms. He felt their terror, their pain, their final moments of incomprehension. Gods, oh gods, what have I done? What have we done? A veteran collapsed, living through the deaths of families he destroyed on Drake's orders, feeling their confusion as he killed them, their grief, their love for each other cut short by his blade. A captain experienced the innocent Omega healer he'd executed under false charges, felt her fear, her betrayal, her desperate hope that someone would believe her truth. No one had. All around the cabin, hardened warriors dropped to their knees, weeping like children. "Make it stop," one sobbed. "Please make it stop. I see them all. I feel what they felt. 5 soldiers broke entirely, fleeing into the blizzard with the blank eyes of men whose minds could no longer bear the weight of what they'd done. But Braxton stood frozen at the center of the psychic storm, experiencing something worse than any single crime. He saw his entire life replay through the lens of truth. Every moment he'd chosen ambition over friendship. Every innocent he'd condemned to death to advance his position. Every lie he told himself, that he was the victim, that he deserved more, that Oliver's trust was somehow an insult rather than a gift. He saw himself through Oliver's eyes, the boy who had been welcomed into the royal family, given every opportunity, loved like a brother, and he saw how he'd repaid that love with betrayal, conspiracy, and murder. I see it, all of it. Braxton fell to his knees, sword clattering from nerveless fingers. "Oliver, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I thought I was—" The confession poured out between sobs, Drake's plans for the coup, the assassination lists, the timeline for eliminating the entire royal line, the network of corrupted nobles and guards. Every detail of 30 years of conspiracy spilled from his lips like poison finally purged. 200 meters south, in his war room, Drake gasped as if struck. He felt it, the psychic thread connecting him to his soldiers, felt it fray, snap, burn. No, the pups weren't supposed to. They shouldn't be able to. His carefully constructed web of lies was unraveling, each broken soldier another thread torn loose. Drake's hands moved with practiced efficiency, pulling hidden documents from locked compartments, activating contingency plans that had been decades in the making. If the prophecy pups lived, he would fall. But Drake hadn't survived 30 years by leaving anything to chance. Back at the cabin, the aftermath was devastating in silence. 23 soldiers remained, broken and weeping.
2 lay dead from psychic overload, their minds unable to process the revelations. 5 had fled into the storm and would likely die there. One soldier looked up at Oliver with tear-stained face. "I'd like to change sides now. Is that allowed? Can I join you, please?" Another rocked back and forth, muttering, "I need a hug," and therapy, mostly therapy. Annika surveyed the carnage with exhausted eyes. "Your kingdom has terrible employee screening." Oliver couldn't even muster a response. He stared at Braxton, who knelt broken in the snow, and felt his heart shatter all over again. The smallest pup yawned hugely, then toppled over sideways, instantly asleep. The other 2 followed within seconds, their tiny bodies unable to sustain consciousness after such an effort. "My children are dramatic." Destiny's mental voice was fond despite her exhaustion. "They get it from their father." "We need to move," Annika said, though she swayed on her feet. "Drake knows. He felt it. Whatever he's planning next will be worse." Oliver looked at the broken soldiers, at his shattered best friend, at the 3 sleeping pups who had just destroyed an army with nothing but truth. "Then we take them all to the Capitol," he said quietly. "Every witness, every confession, every piece of evidence, and we end this tonight."
Chapter 8. The 4-day journey to the capital transformed them all. Broken soldiers who had tried to kill them now helped care for the pups, feeding them scraps of meat and marveling at their golden eyes. Braxton rode in chains, but spoke freely, documenting every detail of Drake's conspiracy. Annika and Oliver spent hours by the campfire, sharing stories of the kingdom they both loved and had both been betrayed by. Destiny regained her strength, though she remained in half form, a silent reminder of what happens when you threaten a mother's children. The capital appeared on the horizon like a promise and a threat. In the throne room, Lord Castellan Drake stood before a packed court, his face a masterwork of grief. "It is with deepest sorrow I report our beloved King Oliver Padilla has fallen to Shadow Wolf attack in the northern mountains." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some nobles wept genuine tears. Others, conspirators, wept false ones. "As his late father's most trusted advisor, I accept the burden of regency until the throne room doors exploded open." Oliver strode in, crowned slightly crooked, clothes still blood-stained from battle, very much alive. The court erupted. Shock, relief, confusion colliding in a cacophony of voices. "Reports of my death are greatly exaggerated, Drake." Oliver's voice cut through the chaos, though not from lack of trying on your part. Drake's mask slipped for one heartbeat, pure rage flashing across his features before the concerned advisor returned. "My king, thank the gods we received reports of—" He stopped. Annika entered behind Oliver, carrying 3 golden-eyed pups. Destiny followed in her terrifying half-form, towering over the nobles who scrambled back in fear. "The exiled Omega," someone whispered. "Shadow Wolf in the palace. Are those prophecy pups?" Drake's barely concealed rage sharpened his voice. "Guards, seize that Omega and beast. They've clearly bewitched." "Sit down." The command in Oliver's voice was absolute. Drake froze mid-gesture, something primal recognizing the Alpha King's authority. Oliver walked to his throne, each step deliberate. "For 30 years you've controlled this kingdom, murdered my father, manipulated my rule, hunted innocents. Today, truth speaks." The eldest pup wiggled free from Annika's arms, wobbling down the throne room's center aisle on unsteady legs. Nobles parted like water, staring at the tiny creature with its impossibly golden eyes. The pup sat before Drake. Their eyes met. "This is absurd. I will not be judged by a psychic connection," forced Drake's mind open like a door kicked off its hinges. And this time, everyone saw the visions projected across the throne room like living memories.
young Drake poisoning Oliver's grandfather for advancement, Drake arranging the accident that killed Oliver's aunt when she questioned expenses, Drake ordering systematic elimination of Omega healers who detected poisoned water, Drake personally strangling a pregnant Omega mother who threatened to expose him, Drake ordering Shadow Wolf bloodline hunts, Drake poisoning Oliver's father, watching him waste away over 2 agonizing years. The court's collective horror manifested in screams, in nobles vomiting, in people collapsing. This wasn't just accusation, this was witnessing. The other 2 pups moved through the crowd, tiny paws touching conspirators. Each touch revealed crimes, bribed judges, murdered witnesses, falsified records. 12 council members exposed in rapid succession. The Treasury Minister's embezzlement and assassination of auditors. The Justice Minister executing innocents to cover Drake's crimes. The Royal Physician falsifying death certificates for poisoning victims. The court descended into chaos. Conspirators tried to flee. Loyal guards blocked exits. Truth was contagious, spreading through the room like wildfire. Drake finally found his voice, standing with desperate defiance. "I did it for the kingdom. Oliver is weak. His father was weak. They would have let us fall to enemies. I made us strong." Annika stepped forward, her voice cutting through the madness. "You made yourself strong on the graves of children." Drake lunged, a hidden blade appearing in his hand, aimed at Annika's heart. Oliver's sword intercepted, the blade stopping at Drake's throat. "I could kill you now. It would be justice." Annika's hand touched Oliver's arm gently. "No, let him face truth. All of it. Every victim, every death, every moment of pain he caused. Let him feel what they felt." Understanding dawned in Oliver's eyes. "The witnessing," the court murmured, "an ancient punishment worse than execution." Drake's first genuine fear cracked his composure. "No, not that. Kill me. Just kill me." "You don't get mercy. They didn't get mercy." 3 pups approached Drake together, their combined power building like a storm. The psychic connection forced him to experience every victim's death from their perspective. Drake screamed as he felt poison burning through his grandfather's veins, his aunt's terror as the carriage plummeted, his father's slow suffocation, each Omega mother's pain and fear for their children, Shadow Wolves dying in traps, Annika's humiliation during exile, every single victim. The process took hours. The court watched as Drake aged years, his hair whitening, eyes going vacant. When the pups finally released him, he was broken, muttering names of victims in an endless loop. Guards led him to the dungeon, alive but shattered, his mind trapped in eternal witnessing. Oliver addressed the silent court. "We failed. I failed. This kingdom has systematically devalued Omega lives, hunted gifted bloodlines, and elevated power over truth. Today, that ends." During the chaos, 1 pup calmly ate cheese stolen from the buffet table. A noble fainted. Another remarked, "That's the 3rd time this hour. Is that a record?" Annika approached Oliver during the restoration ceremony. "This crown thing, it's crooked, very crooked. It's bothering me. I rode 200 meters through a blizzard. Forgive the crown." Oliver presented Annika with the Royal Chief Healer crest, her hands trembling as she accepted it. "I just wanted them to believe me." "I believe you, the kingdom believes you, and we will spend lifetimes earning your forgiveness." Destiny was named Royal War Commander and Shadow Wolf Ambassador. The pups were blessed as kingdom's truth seekers. The court rose in standing ovation, many nobles crying openly. A young Omega in the crowd shouted, "You saved us! You saved us all!" Wait, Annika went from exile to changing an entire kingdom. But here's the truth. Every single one of us has been told we don't matter by someone who should have listened. If Annika's story resonates with you, subscribe to this channel. Hit that like button if you're tired of corrupt systems winning, and comment where you're watching from. I want to know this community spans the whole world, because unlike Drake's kingdom, here, your voice matters. Now, let's see what Annika built. 3 months later, a pup climbed onto Destiny's fearsome half-formed shoulders. I am fearsome warrior. Do not undermine this with cuteness. The court scribe looked up desperately. How do I spell psychic prophecy pup justice? Is that hyphenated?
Chapter 9. 3 months later, Drake's former estate had been transformed into something he would have hated, a place where Omegas learned they mattered. The Royal Healing Academy gleamed with morning light as Annika stood before 20 young Omega healers, their faces bright with nervous hope. "What if," a student asked hesitantly, "what if they don't believe us when we find something wrong?" Annika smiled. "Then you document everything. You find allies, you persist, and if necessary, you find a very dramatic pregnant wolf to help prove your point." Laughter rippled through the class, but Annika's expression turned serious. "You are not just healers. You are truth speakers. This kingdom needs you. Never forget your worth." The kingdom was changing. Omega Council members now sat in the throne room where they'd once been forbidden. Shadow wolves ran free in the northern sanctuary. Truth councils audited government records with prophetic pups ensuring honesty. Mixed species schools taught children that worth wasn't determined by rank. Public memorials honored Drake's victims. Their names would not be forgotten. In the palace gardens, Destiny lounged in full wolf form while 3 larger pups played. They demonstrated growing powers, sensing lies, projecting visions, healing minor wounds. The youngest accidentally revealed a guard's surprise party plans. "Truth-seeking is not always useful, small one," Destiny chided gently. Oliver found Annika on the palace balcony overlooking the city. "The council fights me on every reform. They say I'm moving too fast, disrupting too much." "Good. Disruption means change. Change means growth. 3 months ago, I thought I was a good king. Turns out I was a puppet. 3 months ago, I thought I was a failure. Turns out I was the only one brave enough to tell the truth." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the city below. "Stay," Oliver said quietly. "Be Royal Chief Healer. Help me rebuild what Drake destroyed." "I'm already staying. Where else would I go? The drafty mountain cabin?" Oliver laughed. "Fair point. Besides, someone needs to keep your crown straight." That evening, 20 young Omegas graduated, receiving their Royal Healer crests. Families wept with pride. Many who had once hidden their children's gifts now celebrated them openly. A young graduate approached Annika. "I was told Omegas couldn't be healers, that we weren't strong enough. My family hid what I could do. And now my mother won't stop bragging. She tells everyone her Omega daughter is a royal healer." Annika hugged her, as she should. Another graduate asked, "What you did, going against the whole kingdom, how did you stay brave?" "I wasn't brave, I was terrified, but I learned something important. Courage isn't lack of fear, it's choosing what matters more than fear." Later, Annika returned to the mountain cabin one final time. Standing in the doorway, she remembered that desperate night when everything changed. Destiny joined her in half form. "You saved my life here, my children's lives. You saved yourself. We saved each other. The moon goddess brought me to your door for a reason. You were always meant for more than exile." "I was meant to matter. That's all I ever wanted. You matter to kingdom now." The 3 pups bounded inside, exploring. "This is where we were born?" the eldest asked. "This is where everything changed?" Back at the palace healing wing, a young Omega arrived late evening, frightened and escorted by guards. She was found in Westfall territory, claims she discovered something about the water supply. Governor wants her arrested for creating panic.
Annika recognized that fear. She had worn it 6 months ago. What's her name? Imran. I'm just a village healer, nobody important, but I think someone's poisoning the well. And when I told them, they said I was lying, and her voice cracked. I'm not lying. I tested it 3 times. There's nightshade compound in the water. People are getting sick. Children are getting sick. And nobody will listen because I'm just in Omega. Annika knelt to her level. I believe you. You believe me completely? And we're going to investigate immediately. You did the right thing, the brave thing, the exact thing this kingdom needs. Imran wept with relief. Welcome to the Royal Healing Academy. You're safe here, you're valued here, and your voice matters here. Oliver entered. What do we have? Potential poisoning in Westfall. I'm sending a team immediately. I'll send Truth Council and Royal Guard. Full investigation. To Imran, thank you for your courage. This kingdom is better because people like you refuse to stay silent. Will the governor face justice if I'm right? If you're right, the governor will face everything justice requires. We learned that lesson. After Imran was escorted to the dormitory, Oliver and Annika stood watching the city lights. It's not going to be easy, changing everything. Nothing worth doing is easy. Another young Omega speaking truth to power because one exiled Omega refused to die quietly. I'm not good at dying quietly or living quietly. Turns out I'm terrible at quiet. The kingdom is grateful for that. The kingdom exiled me. The kingdom was wrong. I was wrong, and we're spending every day trying to be worthy of your forgiveness. You're doing okay so far. Destiny joined them, 3 pups sleeping in a pile nearby. The smallest woke, padding over to curl into Annika's arms. They sent me to that mountain to die, to disappear, to be forgotten. And instead, Destiny asked. Annika smiled. Instead, I helped birth a new world. She whispered to the pup in her arms. Let me tell you a story about a night when the snow fell and a wolf came scratching at my door and everything impossible became possible. Golden eyes reflected starlight as her voice continued, weaving the tale of how the forgotten became unforgettable, how the silence taught a kingdom to listen, how the erased rewrote everything. The end.